I think it is very important that we should first pray to Manjushri. And so therefore, there's this very famous prayer, and I will be explaining the meaning about the prayer, and then after that, I'll be giving all transmission on it.
在开始之前会先讲一个非常简短但是非常重要的礼赞文，就是文殊礼赞文。这个礼赞文非常的重要，因为文殊菩萨是智慧的本尊，所以我们今天聚集在一起学习和修行。对我们来说，智慧是非常重要的，因为有了智慧的话，我们就会有很好的记忆，然后也会有智慧来理解佛教深深的含义。然后为了让我们获得智慧，我们要向文殊菩萨祈请，所以我会先给一个文殊菩萨礼赞的非常简短的开始，也会给文殊礼赞的口传。
And so to speak about the origin of this prayer to Manjushri, we call it the actual name is Bal Yishe Yunde Sambu Deba. So you will see the title of that in the first slide, I believe. And but we commonly call it, refer to it as Kangloma. And so to speak of this prayer, we need to know who is the author of the prayer, who composed it. And so there are two sources, two different sources or beliefs of who the actual author is.
先简单的介绍一下这个文殊礼赞的缘起，它有2个名字，待会PPT 上的第1页都会显示出来，有一个长的名字和一个简短的名字。关于这个文殊礼赞的作者有2种渠道的说法。
And so according to the first source, the author of this prayer is known as Acharya Vajrayudha. So there was an Indian scholar known as, basically his name was Vajrayudha. And it is believed that he composed this prayer.
一种说法是一个印度的学者叫 Vajrayudha.
And so this is one of the beliefs of who the author of the prayer is, but the most famous belief of who composed this prayer is believed that at one point in Nalanda University in India, it was at a time when the Buddha Dharma was still flourishing in that university and in India particularly. And so it was during that time that there were about 500 Panditas or scholars living at the monastery, at the university. And one day the teacher, the main abbot of the monastery, told them that you should all compose a prayer to Manjushri. Each and every one of you, you should compose it because I believe that there was going to be a ceremony on the next day, an opening ceremony of a particular library or temple in the university. And so as a part of that, to create auspicious circumstances for that ceremony, the abbot told them that you should all write a praise to Manjushri.
更加重要的一个关于这个文殊礼赞的作者的说法是，之前在大兰陀大学当时佛法还兴盛的时候，有500班智达，他们有一个亲教师，让他们每一个人都写一个赞颂文殊菩萨的偈颂，因为第2天在纳兰达在纳兰陀大学有一个开图书馆的一个仪式。
And so what the abbot wanted the 500 Panditas, or scholars, to do was he wanted them to go back to their rooms, each and every, all of their rooms, and write it separately, not write it together. So therefore, basically, the Panditas or scholars would not know what their friends wrote down. So they wrote it down. They each went back to their rooms and they wrote down the prayer. But and on the next morning, they submitted their prayer that they wrote the previous night to the abbot. And when they submitted the prayer, it so happened that all of the prayers that each of the Panditas, all 500 Panditas wrote, ended out to be exactly the same prayer.
当时清教师让500班智达回到他们各自的房间，各自书写这个寄颂。所以说，当时每一个班智达都不知道他们的朋友写了什么寄颂。等到第二天，500班智达把他们各自写的寄颂交回给清教师的时候，他们发现他们所有的人写的寄颂都是一样的。
And so it is believed that Manjushri blessed all of the Panditas to write the same prayer.
所以当时被认为是文殊菩萨加持了500班智达写了同样的寄颂。
And it so happens to be that the abbot that told all of the 500 scholars to write the praise, his name was Sri Jana Gunapala. So that is his name. It's called Sri Jana Gunapala. So that based on that abbot's name, the prayer also this, the name of the abbot turned out to be also the name of the title of this prayer.
当时叫500班智达写寄颂的清教师的名字叫 Sri Jana Gunapala， 所以他的名字也被引用为就这个文殊礼赞的另外一个名字。
So that is the origin of this prayer. So to now speak of the actual prayer, the meaning of the prayer, we can now look at the slides.
所以刚才说的是这个文殊礼赞的缘起，然后现在来解释这个文殊礼赞的话，我们要看放映的 PPT。
So in the first slide, the one before this one, yes. So it says homage to the Guru and Lord Manjughosha. So that was written by the author and is the first praise before composing the actual text, which starts from the next slide. So the reason of why the author is praising his Guru and Manjughosha is because by praising one's Guru, or also known as teacher, by praising one's Guru or teacher and also his tutelary deity or meditational deity, who is Lord Manjughosha or Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, by praising them, a lot of good karma is accumulated, a lot of good deeds is accumulated. And due to that, any kind of obstacle that is in the way of successfully composing, that is in the way to successfully compose this prayer is all wiped away. So therefore, by praising his Guru and Lord Manjughosha in the beginning, then all of the obstacles that there might be for the author to write the actual text is now sort of like vanished due to their blessings.
所以先看第一句，也就是我们现在看到的这一页上的这一句。这一句是在正文之前的顶礼句。之所以要顶礼上师以及顶礼文殊菩萨，也就是所有菩萨智慧的本尊，是因为这样子的话可以积累很多的善根，也可以帮助把撰写这个寄颂所有的委员都能够消除。
And so now we can go to the next slide. And we have, it says, your wisdom is brilliant and pure like the sun, free from the clouds of the two obscurations. And so that is what we have here. It says Conqueror in Tibetan. And so what this means is that it says, your wisdom is brilliant and pure like the sun, free from the clouds of the true obscurations. So what the author is actually speaking about is Manjushri's wisdom. And the example of his wisdom, he puts the example of Manjushri's wisdom as the sun. So he's saying that the sun is similar to Manjushri's wisdom.
在讲诵第二句，就是彼之聪慧，离二障云，犹如清净及光明。这一句就是把文殊菩萨的智慧比作像太阳一样。
Yeah, so Manjushri's wisdom is similar to the sun. And not just is it the sun in any kind of weather, but it is the sun, Manjushri's wisdom is similar to the sun that is on a cloudless day, on a day where there's no clouds in the sky and the sky is very clear. And that is how Manjushri's wisdom is like.
这个把文殊菩萨的智慧比作太阳，而且这个太阳不是任何天气的时候的太阳，而是在没有任何的云朵、非常干净的天空的时候的太阳。
And the cloud is an example. What the author is trying to say is that the two obscurations are like the clouds. So basically, we have, according to Buddhism, there are two obscurations, especially according to the Mayan tradition. There are two obscurations. And the first obscuration is known as the emotional obscuration. And the second obscuration is known as the cognitive obscuration.
刚才说到的云朵也是一个比喻，这个云朵特别是在大乘佛教里是二障的一个比喻。二障在大乘佛教里指的是第一个是烦恼障，第二个是所知障。
And the reason why these are called obscurations is because it is something that creates obstacles for us. And the way it creates obstacles for us is that the first among the two, the emotional obscuration, creates obstacles for us to be free from suffering, to be free from samsara or cyclic existence.
之所以这个二障是叫做障碍的话，因为他们会为我们制造违缘。第一个烦恼障是，就是我们不能从我们的痛苦当中解脱，没有办法让我们或者是说让我们一直束缚在轮回里面。
And the second obscuration, which is known as cognitive obscuration, obstructs us from attaining full and complete enlightenment. Basically, the second obscuration creates obstacles for us to attain enlightenment.
第二个所知障，它制造的违缘是，它会阻碍我们获得彻底的证悟。
Or you could say that the second obscuration creates obstacles for us to know everything. Currently, as we are sentient beings, as we are just an ordinary kind of being, we do not have the ability to know everything like the Buddha. But because the Buddha has abandoned not just the first obscuration, but also mainly the second obscuration, the Buddha knows everything. There is nothing that the Buddha does not know.
或者也可以说，第二个所知障，它会障碍我们知道所有的事情。我们现在作为不能像佛陀一样作为不能像佛陀一样是辨知，因为佛陀的话，他断除了第一个障碍，也就是烦恼障。更重要的是，佛陀他断除了所知障，也就是说，佛陀他知道所有的事情，没有任何一件事情是佛陀不知道的。
And so, because it says here that Manjushri has abandoned, or you could say he is free from the two obscurations, this confirms, this part of the prayer also happens to confirm that Manjushri is actually a fully enlightened Buddha.
文殊菩萨的话，他也是断除了这二障， 所以说这也是一个证明，就是文殊菩萨他已经证悟了佛陀的智慧。
So when it says here, your wisdom is brilliant and pure like the sun, free from the clouds of the two obscurations, the way we are supposed to understand this is that just like the sun in the cloudless sky shines brilliantly, likewise, Manjushri's wisdom which is free from the two obscurations, shines brilliantly.
所以这一句寄颂，比之聪慧离二丈远，有入清净极光明。我们可以把它理解为文殊菩萨的智慧就像太阳一样，在没有云朵的天空下，闪闪发光。也就是像文殊菩萨的智慧，在断除了烦恼障和所知障的情况下，他的智慧也是闪闪发光。
And in the second line, we have Chinye Tunkun Chishin Si Chirinigi Togar Lebam Zins. So it says, you perceive the whole of the reality exactly as it is. And so hold the book of transcendental wisdom at your heart. So what that means is that Manjushri perceives or directly understands or directly sees the whole of the reality. The whole of the reality means he knows everything that you could say exists. So basically there's nothing that he does not know. There's not any kind of human being or not any kind of being that he does not know. There are not any kind of places that he does not know. There's basically, he knows everything that exists. So that is what it means.
下一句寄颂，以如实现见所有义故，彼持经含于心间，就是说文殊菩萨他能够直接的观知到世间的一切，也就是说世界上能够如实的观知到的现实没有任何的众生以及地方是文殊菩萨不知道的，文殊菩萨能够如实的遍知一切。
And it says exactly as it is. So basically, not just does he know everything that exists, not just does he know all of reality, but he also knows the nature of all of the reality, which happens to be emptiness. So he knows that everything that he sees, everything that he perceives as reality, he understands that reality to be the nature of emptiness.
这句寄颂里面说，文殊菩萨现见所有的一切，这里不仅仅是说文殊菩萨他知道世间的一切，而且文殊菩萨也了解一切的本性，也就是空性。所以这句寄颂，一个是说文殊菩萨能够如实的观一切，更加的是说文殊菩萨能够现见一切的本性是空性。
And so it says, and so hold the book of transcendental wisdom at your heart. So this means that he holds the book of the transcendental wisdom, also known as the book of the perfection of wisdom, which we call Prajna Paramita in Sanskrit. It's also known as the perfection of wisdom. So he holds that book at his heart. Well, in paintings, you may not see it being exactly at his heart, but it is close to his heart. And so the reason why he holds this book is, as it says above, he perceives the whole of reality and exactly as it is. And so the reason why he holds it is to let other people know, is to let sentient beings know that he can perceive the whole of reality exactly as it is.
这句寄颂里面还说到，文殊菩萨胸中执持般若经，这个般若经在梵文里面也是指般若波罗蜜多的意思。我们在唐卡上可能不一定看到，这个般若经是在文殊菩萨的胸中，或者是说在他在接近胸中的一个位置。然后之所以是这样，是因为是文殊菩萨想让众生知道，文殊菩萨是能够如实的现见一切。
So basically, to put it simply, when he holds the book of the transcendental wisdom at his heart, he's giving the hint to others to let them know that I, Manjushri, know everything and I know the nature of everything as well.
所以简单来说，这个是就是在提示，我文殊菩萨，我不仅仅是能够现见世间的一切，不仅仅是能够现见一切，而且能够现见一切的本性。
And then we can go to the next slide. It says, Kanda sibet zunrar marik mentum dungal gisirwes. So it says, you look up on all beings imprisoned within samsara, enshrouded by the thick darkness of ignorance and tormented by suffering. So here, the author is trying to is trying to say that samsara is like a prison. And so therefore we need to first understand that samsara is like a prison. Samsara is basically cyclic existence. We can understand it, for now, we can understand it as being all of the places where we can be born and where there is suffering.
下一页，现在说的寄送是谁于三有欲中无明沉暗痛苦所逼迫。这里作者是想说，轮回就是像囚牢一样，也就是说，轮回包括我们所有出生过的地方，以及所有在我们出生过的地方所承受过的痛苦，就像囚牢一样。
And so, to speak of a story about this, there's a story about King Ashoka. So King Ashoka was a very famous Buddhist supporter and king that lived in ancient India.
这里说一个故事，是说一个公案，是一个国王，是在佛经里面的国王，我找一下名字。
Ashoka, his name is.
他的名字是 Ashoka。
And so he had a prison. This must have been before he became a Buddhist. So he had a prison. And this was not like any ordinary prison, but his prison happened to be a very beautiful looking garden. So it's a very beautiful looking garden, but actually it's a prison.
刚才说的那国王是阿育王，然后他当时在一个监狱里，那个监狱跟普通的监狱不一样，是一个非常漂亮的花园。
And we call it, the prison's name was, in Tibetan, it's called Nyamgawa, but I'm not exactly sure how that would be translated into English. Maybe it would be something like joyful grove, I think.
那个监狱的名字是一个藏语，不是很确定英语具体怎么翻译，大概可以翻译成一个一个
Joyful grove.
joyful growth。
Yeah, so it's the garden is very joyful, so it's called Joyful Grove.
大概可以翻译成一个充满趣味的一个生长，因为就是花园里面有很多东西，然后大概可以翻译成这样。
The reason why it's called this way in this way is because it so happens that it's a very perfect garden. Inside the garden, there are people walking. Some people are walking, some people are sleeping, some people are just sitting, and some people are talking. And when you look outside from the garden, and you look at the garden, you see that there are all these people, different people doing different things in there, and it looks very enjoyable. But actually, the real situation is before anyone enters this garden, the gods of the garden, the gods that are at the gate of the garden, they ask the person that is about to enter the garden, what are you going to do once you get inside the garden?
在这个非常美丽的花园里面，有人在走路，有人坐着，有人在说话。 从外面看这个花园的话，看起来非常的开心。但是任何人在进入这个花园之前，外面都会有人问你进入花园想要干什么。
And so when the gods ask that person, if the person says, the person has no clue of the real situation inside the garden. So the person sometimes will say, once I go inside there, I want to sleep. And some will say, once I go inside there, I want to take a walk. And some will say, I just want to sit and relax. And so after they give their reasons of entering the garden, the gods let them inside the garden. But what they have to do once they get inside the garden is that once they are let inside the garden, they are forced to, if they said earlier they want to sleep, then the only thing they can do inside once they get inside is just sleep. And if they said earlier, I want to take a walk, they have to keep on walking in there. It is like the punishment. And if they said, I just want to sit, then they have to keep on sitting. They cannot stand up.
嗯，如果说，这个人，就是想要进入花园的人，告诉了这个门口的保安，他们进去之后想干嘛，但是，外面想要进入的人，他们不知道这个花园里面发生了什么。比如说，他们说他们进入花园之后想要睡觉，或者是想要走路，或者是想要坐着休息。一旦这个保安让他们进入的话，他们一旦进入了这个花园，他们就被迫只能做他们之前说他们想做的事情。比如说，他们之前说他们想要睡觉，他们进入花园之后就只能睡觉，就像一个惩罚一样。
And so, therefore, when you sleep, it is pleasant to sleep. It's very enjoyable to sleep. But if you sleep for too long, that is almost impossible to just continuously sleep. You have to at least get up at one point. But the people in there who are sleeping, they cannot get up. If they get up, they will be punished. And it is enjoyable to take a walk. But if you walk for too long, then you're going to get very tired of walking and you want to take a rest. But the people in there cannot take a rest. They have to keep on walking nonstop. And if you sit, it is enjoyable to sit in the beginning and for quite some time, but then eventually you get tired of sitting and you get the urge to want to get up. But the people in there are not allowed to do so. Once they sit, they have to sit nonstop.
如果说进入花园想要睡觉的话，睡觉是很舒服，但是也没有可能一直睡觉。但是，一旦说想要睡觉的话，就一定必须要睡觉，就像一个惩罚一样。或者是说，如果走路的话，走路也是很好，但是走的时间长的话，也会觉得很累，会想休息，但是也不能休息，一定要一直走路。或者说，如果想要坐着的话，坐着一开始也是很好，但是时间久了的话，也会觉得很累。很想起来走动一下，但是也没有办法起来走动，就必须要一直坐着。
So therefore, the reality is that all of the people in the prison are suffering very much. They're suffering a lot because they're tired of, those people that are walking are tired of walking. Those people sitting are tired of sitting. Those people who are eating are tired of eating and like so. But however, a person that is outside of the garden, outside of the prison, when they take a look, when they take a peek and see that some people are taking a nap, some people are taking a walk, some people are just sitting, some people are eating, some people are talking. They don't know the true situation that those people in there, whatever they're doing, they cannot stop doing it. They have to continuously do it. So that fact, that the person that is outside of the garden does not know that fact. And so when he takes a peek and he or she, whoever is outside of the garden, when they take a peek at the garden, they see all of these people doing different things and it looks very enjoyable to them. They'll think, oh, wow, so many people are enjoying themselves in the garden. And I might also want to just go inside the garden and have some, enjoy some time in there. So although the person outside the garden is thinking of such thoughts, it is what they are thinking and the reality or the real situation is very different.
但是现实是花园里面的所有的人都在受苦， 走路的人一直在走路，睡觉的人一直在睡觉，吃东西的人一直在吃东西。但是作为在花园外面的人看起来的话，花园里面的人有人在睡觉，有人在走路，有人在吃东西，有人在说话，看起来很好。但是因为在花园外面的人不知道里面真实的情况，不知道，比如说要睡觉的话，或者要走路等等的话，就要一直做这件事情。但是这一点是外面的人不知道的，所以在他们看来，里面的人都在想的都看起来很好，所以就是外面的人看到的这个花园的情况和这个花园现实的情况是不一样的。
And so, therefore, what the author is saying here is that samsara or cyclic existence is similar to a prison, and we can understand it as being similar to King Ashoka's prison.
所以这个作者这里想说的是，轮回就像监狱一样。这里就刚用的这个故事就是说，轮回就像阿育王的这个监狱一样。
And the way it is similar is because when you suddenly take a look at samsara, the nature or the reality of samsara, it looks like the people in there, they enjoy a lot of happiness. When you suddenly just at the first glance, without any kind of investigation done prior, it looks like all of the samsara beings are enjoying a lot of happiness. Some get rich, some live long, some are just like very physically happy, some are mentally happy and enjoying themselves. And so therefore it is similar to that person that is outside of the garden, taking just a quick glance at King Ashoka's garden and thinking of such thoughts.
所以这个就像是看轮回的真实情况一样，就是看起来所有的人在轮回里的人都在享乐，就是在没有观察的情况下，比如说有人有钱，有人长寿，有人身体或者是心情愉快，都在享受自我，但是这是在外人看来，就像外人看这个阿育王的监狱一样。
And so, likewise, when the person that is outside the garden, if that person does a true investigation of the situation inside the garden, then only then will they understand that the real situation inside the garden is not as it seems to be.
所以就像阿育王的这个监狱一样，如果外人仔细的去调查、去观察、研究这个花园的话，也会发现这个花园的情况和他们观察的和他们从外面看起来的情况不一样。
And so also if we really truly take a look at samsara, the nature of samsara, the reality of samsara, we'll find that although at first glance, when you just suddenly take a look at it, it looks like many people are enjoying and things are, are going very well for those who are living inside samsara. But with true investigation, you'll come to realize that all of the beings that are inside samsara are not free from suffering. They are always chased by suffering sooner or later. Actually, those, for example, those who are physically, those who are mentally, mentally happy, they may have physical suffering. And likewise, those beings who have physical happiness, they may have mental suffering. Because, for example, we can look at beggars and rich people. So beggars, if you look at beggars, although they're, in many cases, although they are going through many physical sufferings because they don't get enough food or they don't have good clothing, yet we find in many cases that they are able to be content with what they have. They do have a sense of peace in their mind.
正如果我们要仔细了解和观察轮回的本性的话，就会发现第一眼看起来好像所有的人都很好，都过得很开心，但是其实没有一个众生是不受痛苦的折磨，所有的众生都是被痛苦所追随， 就比如说有些人可能心里可能他的心里非常的开心，但是他可能身体上受很多的痛苦，或者是说他的身体上受很多的痛苦，但他的心理非常的但他的心理情况就非常的好。就比如说我们看路边的乞讨者，可能他们无衣无食，但他们可能心里很开心，他们可能心里非常的觉得平静安逸。
So basically, even though they do have mental happiness at some degree, they do still have the physical suffering. So they have suffering still.
所以说那些乞讨者的话，他们可能心里很开心，但是他们还是受身体上的痛苦，所以他们还是被痛苦折磨着。
And then if you look at those who are wealthy, there are many wealthy people we see that who just do not have to worry about their health, because if they suddenly get sick, they can go to a hospital, they can afford for the treatments, any kind of costly treatments. So there's, many wealthy people do not need to worry too much about their health, their body, because they can afford to take care of their body. And so therefore, they are, in most cases, their physical happiness is there, but still we find that many rich people and many wealthy people, many celebrities, as we can see, are mentally unhappy. They always worry. They cannot, they do not seem to be able to be at peace with what they have. Either they are not content with what they have, they want more, or even if they are okay with what they have, they always worrying about, that they may possibly lose their wealth. And so they're always, their mind is always filled with all of these worries and thoughts. So wealthy people in most cases have the mental suffering.
或者看有钱人，对于有钱人来说，他们不需要担心生病，因为他们有足够，因为他们有足够的钱去支付或者是去接受治疗，所以他们看起来是就是因为很有钱，所以就不用担心他们的身体会受苦，所以但是他们的心理上可能会受苦。再比如说很多的明星，可能他们的身体也是非常的，但是身体上没有任何的痛苦，但是心理上却有很多人痛苦。比如说，他们不能从他们已有的一切里面感受到满足和安逸，比如他们总会担心自己会失去他们现在拥有的一切。
And then, of course, there are those people that have both mental suffering and physical suffering. And of course, they experience the most unhappiness and suffering.
当然也有身心两方面都受苦的人，这些人他们是因为两方面都有痛苦，所以他们在轮回中是受最多的苦。
So therefore, if you look at it and you examine the situation, you'll see that there is suffering, whether you're poor or rich. None of them have been able to escape the grasp of suffering. And not just that, but everyone has to be born. It is believed that when you are born, there's the suffering of being born. There's pain for the mother as well as the child. And then also, once you are born, then you age, you also get sick, and eventually you die. And then after you die, then because we believe in rebirth, then the whole cycle, it happens all over again and continuously without end. So there's just endless suffering.
可以仔细观察的话，不管是有钱还是没有钱的人，所有的人都会在轮回中受苦。比如说，我们刚刚被生下来的时候，都会有生苦，不管是对于母亲还是对于被生下来的小孩来说，长大之后又会有劳苦，之后又会生病，又会受病苦的折磨，之后死了之后又会有死的痛苦，死了之后，因为佛教相信转世，转世了之后，之前所有的轮回又会重复一遍，所以轮回中都是遍满了痛苦。
And so therefore, it is saying that samsara is similar to like a prison. And all of those beings that are living in samsara are similar to prisoners.
可以说轮回就像监狱一样，轮回中所有的众生都像在监狱里的囚牢一样。
And these samsaric beings are prisoners of samsara. What they have, the problem that they have is that they have this thick darkness of ignorance. And what this means is that they have this thick darkness of ignorance. They do not know true nature of reality. You could understand it as that on a deeper level, or you could understand that they do not know what is right or wrong. They do not know what they should do, and they do not know what they should not do.
所以说，轮回里的众生都像在监狱里的囚犯一样，问题在于每一个众生都有无明，可以理解为不知道万法万事万物的本性，也可以说不知道对错抉择。
And so basically, because they do not know what they should do and what they should not do, they get confused and they think that by doing what they should not be doing, they will attain happiness, and they do what they should not be doing, which is accumulate bad deeds. And also same for the opposite. By they think of what should be done to be something that they do not need to do, and so they ignore accumulating good deeds, and so therefore they end up in suffering.
因为众生就是不知道对错抉择，就是不知道对错抉择，就是不知道什么该做，什么不该做，所有人都非常的困惑。比如说，众生不知道不该比如说众生做了不该做的事情，就会造恶业，或者是说不做应该做的事情，比如说积累善业。
So therefore, it's saying here that Manjushri looks on all sentient beings that are present in samsara, who have ignorance and suffering, with love. And the love he has for them is, it says, in the next line, with the love of a mother for her only child.
所以说，就如，下一行的偈颂里面说的，就是爱此众生犹如独子，也就是说，文殊菩萨像母亲爱孩子一般的看所有的众生，因为所有的众生都充满了无明还有痛苦。
And so it says, with the love of a mother child, with a mother for her only child. So a mother, for example, there's a mother and she has only one child, no more than one. So that mother, because she has only one child, she will put all her focus onto that child, all her love onto that one child, and care for that child and take care of that child. Likewise, Manjushri loves all sentient beings, but it's not like loving one sentient being more than the other, but rather he equally loves all sentient beings, and the love that he has for them is as strong as a mother who has only one child's love for their child.
这个偈颂里说，文殊菩萨爱众生就像爱独子一样。这个意思就是说，文殊菩萨像爱他就像爱一个孩子一样。就比如说，把所有的注意和爱都集中在一个独子身上。就比如说，一个母亲她只有一个孩子那样的去爱所有的众生，去照顾所有的众生。也就是说，文殊菩萨他对众生的爱是没有偏心的，像爱一个独子一样。
And so from the beginning of the prayer up until now, it has the author has praised Manjushri's the good qualities of Manjushri's mind.
所以从这个寄颂文从开始到现在，作者就是一直在赞颂文殊菩萨的，文殊菩萨的发心以及文殊菩萨的智慧。
And so from now here, the author starts to praise Manjushri's speech qualities, the good qualities of his speech.
所以从开始到现在，之前的那一段都是对文殊菩萨与功德的赞颂。
So it says, your enlightened speech endowed with 60 melodious tones. So it is saying that Manjushri's speech is endowed with 60 melodious tones. Basically, we do not need to, it's not necessary to know all of the 60 melodious tones. I think Bajul Rinpoche, Zabajul Rinpoche, who is a great Nyingma master, he mentions in one of his works the 60 melodious tones. I'm not sure if it's translated in Chinese so far, but if it is, then you can take a look at it in his works. But basically, what we can understand here by 60 melodious tones is that it is trying to say that his voice is very, very melodious. and pleasant to listen to.
不好意思，更正一下，之前说的是从开始到就之前的这一句都是对文殊菩萨的赞颂，接下来是对文殊菩萨与功德的赞颂，不好意思。然后接下来是说在藏地的一位大德对文殊菩萨的与功德的赞叹，就是像六十音语一样，不是很确定这个词在中文里面有没有具体的翻译，但是是对文殊菩萨的语言的一种赞颂。
And then we can go to the next slide. And it says, so like the thundering roar of a dragon awakens us from the sleep of destructive emotions and frees us from the chains of karma. So this is continuing to praise Manjushri's speech. It is the example of his speech here that the author puts is a dragon. So when a dragon roars, it is believed that when a dragon roars, the dragon's roar is so loud that the sound resounds through the valley, and anyone living in the valley or in the land will wake up from their sleep because it is so loud.
好，下一页这一句洪声如雷，就是说继续赞颂文殊菩萨的语功德，就是说文殊菩萨的语言就像龙吼叫时那样的大声，能把所有山谷里的人都吵醒。
And so just like when the dragon roars, it wakes up all of the people who are sleeping nearby. Likewise, when Manjushri speaks of the Dharma to sentient beings, he wakes them up from their sleep-like destructive emotions, and therefore frees all sentient beings from the chains of karma.
也就是像这个龙吼叫时的声音一样，文殊菩萨说法的声音，也就是把所有的众生都吵醒，特别是从烦恼中吵醒，以及把众生在轮回中的束缚当中脱离出来。
And so here, destructive emotions refers to the emotions that we have, the bad emotions that we have, whether it be ignorance, attachment, or anger. So when he speaks of the Dharma, we are able to, due to his blessings and also due to listening to the Dharma from him, we are able to get rid of our destructive emotions from us. And when we get rid of our destructive emotions, also the chains of karma will also be untied, because we as sentient beings are tied up in samsara. It's like a prisoner that is tied up in iron shackles or chains. When the prisoner is tightly, is tied up with iron shackles or iron chains, it is difficult for them to escape. And likewise, likewise, we're saying that karma is like the chains that is stopping us from escaping from the prison, the samsara, the prison like samsara. So when Manjushri speaks of the Dharma, not just will our destructive emotions go away, not only will we be able to abandon all of our destructive emotions, but we will also be able to be freed from the chains of karma that we are now tied by.
这里说的烦恼是指不好的情绪，比如不好的情绪的，比如说像无明，或者是说执着等等。也就是说，听文殊菩萨说法的话，就能够帮助我们摆脱烦恼，也能够让我们摆脱我们在轮回中的枷锁。因为这些不好的情绪，比如说无明、执着等，就是把我们束缚在轮回里的枷锁。这个枷锁我们的业力也就像这个枷锁一样，让我们在轮回中不得解脱。所以听文殊菩萨说法，也就是帮我们摆脱烦恼，也能够帮我们束缚在轮回里的枷锁。
And then the next line says, "Marigmuse dunganyuku chinyejuze rajinams." So it says, "Dispelling the darkness of ignorance, you wield the sword of wisdom to cut through all our suffering." So it is said that it is saying that he dispels the darkness of ignorance, and to signify that, as we can see in many of the paintings or statues of Manjushri, he holds up a sword high up into the air, and that sword signifies that he cuts through that he dispels all of the suffering, all of the darkness of ignorance of sentient beings, as well as he cuts to the very root of all of our suffering. So he gets rid of all of our suffering. So for us to understand that this is the work that he does for us, he holds a sword in his right hand.
下一句这个断除无明，就好像我们在唐卡中看到的文殊菩萨，手执宝剑举过他的头顶，就是为了断除众生的无明以及生老病死的牙。这个宝剑是直接砍向生老病死的牙，也就是说，这是文殊菩萨为我们做的。
And when it says dispelling the darkness of ignorance, the way he dispels it is through teaching the Dharma. So therefore, this is still a speech quality. So up until now, the author has praised Manjushri's speech quality.
文殊菩萨帮我们断除无明以及生老病死牙的方法，就是通过说法。所以从刚才到现在这两句都还是在赞叹文殊菩萨语的功德。
And we can go to the next slide now.
我们现在可以到下一页。
So So from here now, the author is praising the body quality of Manjushri.
所以这一句开始是礼赞文殊菩萨的身的功德。
And so it says, "Pure from the very beginning, you have reached the end of the 10 bhumis and perfected all enlightened qualities, foremost of the Buddha's heirs." So what this means is that from the very beginningless time, which means from a very long time ago, you Manjushri have already surpassed, have already passed to all of the 10 bhumis. Bhumis means levels. And in this case, it is speaking of the 10 levels of a bodhisattva, the 10 levels of practice that a bodhisattva needs to go to attain complete enlightenment.
这个下一句就是说，无始以来，也就是很久很久以前，文殊菩萨已经圆满了十地菩萨的修行。
And so what it's saying here is that he, from a very long time ago, Manjushri has already passed through all of the 10 stages of Bodhisattva's practice. And so therefore he is already enlightened. He is already a fully enlightened Buddha. However, because there are so many sentient beings left in samsara and they are trapped in here, and they need to be saved, instead of resting in the Buddha state, he has come back. Although he was once a bodhisattva and now a fully enlightened Buddha, he has come back out of his great compassion in the form of a bodhisattva once again to save sentient beings. And he has come back in the form of a bodhisattva, and this form of a bodhisattva that he has come back in is like the best among all of the bodhisattvas.
这个是说文殊菩萨在很久以前已经超越了十地菩萨的修行，已经达到了，已经证悟了佛陀圆满的果位。但是因为轮回中还有这么多的众生，所以文殊菩萨以菩萨的色身回来，为了救度所有的众生，也就是说文殊菩萨的色身是最圆满殊胜的。
And now that he is back to help us in the form of a bodhisattva, we usually refer to Manjushri as the youthful one. And the reason why we refer to him as that is because he has returned in the form of a very young boy. And the form that he has chosen, the appearance of age that he has chosen, there are two different ways. Some say that he has chosen the form of a 16-year-old boy, 16-year-old teenager, and some say that he has chosen the form of an 8-year-old boy.
文殊菩萨他回来的，他再回到轮回中的色身是以文殊童子的形象。文殊菩萨选择这样的色身回来有两种不同的说法，一个是说文殊菩萨选了16岁的一个年轻少年的一个色身，另外一种说法是说选了一个8岁的一个童子的色身。
And then it says Chuda Chudan Chunyi Genje. So what that is it speaks of also of the body qualities of Manjushri. It says your body is adorned with 112 marks of enlightenment. So also this is similar to that of the 60 melodious tones of the speech. We do not really need to understand right now. It's good if we can learn about it eventually, but basically it is saying here that he has all of the beautiful attributes of a fully enlightened Buddha, which all of these attributes, if you actually, it is really, if you count it, it is unimaginable, but you could say that if it is 112 marks that he has as Buddha attributes.
接下来一句还是赞叹文殊菩萨的身的功德。这里的说的十数十又12庄严，跟之前说的60晕音语一样。我们不需要知道，我们不需要知道具体的现在，但是如果知道的话，那也很好。这里就是主要是说，就是赞叹文殊菩萨的身功德，拥有像佛陀一样，所有的相好庄严。其实具体的是不可数，但是也可以说是112相好庄严。
So to give you a little example of that, you know that Manjushri has, if you look at the paintings and statues, you'll find just like Shakyamuni Buddha, he has a little kind of, how to say, a little small bump, it's actually a white tuft of hair circled clockwise between his two eyebrows. So that is one of the signs that he has. It is a white kind of hair that is circular between his eyebrows.
就举一个例子来说，比如说我们看文殊菩萨的唐卡的话，像释迦牟尼佛的唐卡一样，眉间有白毫，也就是是像圆圈那样白色的毛。
And also, speaking about other of his body parts, he has very long fingers, and if you look at it may not show in the Tanga, but because he is endowed with the attributes of a fully enlightened Buddha, on the palm of his hand there are natural marks of like a natural drawing of a Dharma wheel on both palms of his hands and also on his feet.
再举一个其他的例子，比如说文殊菩萨的手非常的修长，或者是说可能唐卡上不一定看得清楚，但是文殊菩萨的手，他的手掌里面的手纹自然显现有一个法轮的手纹，包括文殊菩萨的脚上也有法轮的脚纹。
So there are many other attributes that he has, but I don't think we need to go to all of them. Anyway, so up until now, the body attributes, the body qualities of Manjushri has been praised.
文殊菩萨还有其他的相好庄严，但是这里就不细说了。从刚才那2句到现在，都是礼赞文殊菩萨的身功德。
And so now the author ends the prayer by saying, Dalo Musa Jambiyanadu, which is to Manju Gosha, the gentle voiced. I prostrate and pray, dispel the darkness from my mind. So here he is saying to Manjugosha, Lord Manjushri, which means the gentle voice, because he has a very gentle voice when he speaks. To you, who has all of these qualities that we have mentioned earlier, I prostrate. Prostrate does not necessarily mean to put your palms together and do a body prostration, but prostrate in this particular sense means offering great respect.
然后最后这里是说，就是也是一种顶礼文殊菩萨，是说文殊菩萨的声音非常的温柔，以及非常的柔和。然后之后是说，我顶礼文殊菩萨，这里的顶礼妙文殊不是说手掌合礼，而是说心里的文殊菩萨一种深深的虔诚。
And so when offering prostrations, when offering prostrations, we say in Tibetan there's Lugicha, Ngagicha, and Yigicha, which means body prostrations, speech prostrations, and mind prostrations. So it's not just all limited to the body prostrations. There are two more. So there are many ways basically to offer great respect. So for example, the body prostration is, as we see most often, if it's Tibetans, we put our palms together and touch our heads to the ground, also with our palms to the ground, or either it can be a full prostration. If it's Chinese, they also have their own way of prostrations. Almost most different Buddhist countries have their own different customs of making body prostrations, which is basically to show respect to your body.
这个顶礼不仅仅是身顶礼，在里面有身语意的顶礼，有不同方法的顶礼。比如说藏人的话是双手合十，头手触地的顶礼；汉人有不同顶礼的方法啊，其他地方、其他国家也有不同的方式顶礼这一些顶礼都是说用我们的身体来向文殊菩萨献上虔诚的顶礼。
And so here the author is saying that he's offering his body prostrations to Manjushri.
这里是说作者用他的身在顶礼文殊菩萨。
And he is also offering his prostrations to speech as well, because the way he's doing that is by he is so far written this whole prayer, and he's taught about, he's been speaking about the good qualities of Manjushri and praising him so far to words or speech, and to that he has prostrated to Manjushri to his own speech.
这里作者引用他的语在顶礼文殊菩萨，比如说通过写这个寄颂通过用不同的方式赞叹文殊菩萨，就是用他的语言来赞叹文殊菩萨，顶礼文殊菩萨。
And also he is making prostrations to his mind. And the way he is doing that is that he is keeping in mind all of these wonderful qualities of Manjushri while he is praising Manjushri. So he's thinking about all of these qualities and feeling a lot of faith towards Manjushri. And through that, he is offering his prostrations to mind.
这里作者也通过他自己的意来顶礼文殊菩萨。比如说在写这个寄颂的过程当中，作者一心想着所有文殊菩萨的功德，也就是通过这种的方法作者也用他自己的意来顶礼文殊菩萨的一切功德。
And it says pray. So not just is he prostrating to Manjushri, but he is also praying. Praying in this case means making a request.
这里不仅仅是顶礼，还有说是祈祷文殊菩萨。这里的祈祷，也就是说向文殊菩萨的一个祈请。
And the request that he is making to Manjushri is, as it says here, dispel the darkness from my mind. So he's requesting Manjushri to please dispel or to get rid of all of the darkness, which means ignorance, from the author's own mind.
这里作者的祈请是祈请文殊菩萨净我心暗，也就是说祈请文殊菩萨遣除心里所有的无明黑暗。
And so with this, we have completed the actual prayer. And we can go to the next slide.
那这样就
And yes.
那这样这里的寄送我们就全都说完了，然后我们可以说下一页。
And so this is an additional prayer. It is not a part of the actual prayer, I guess, but the original Kongloma prayer, but it is an additional prayer which we add to the prayer, the above prayer. And it says, so with all of your kindness and love, let your wisdom's shining light clear the darkness of my ignorance once and for all. So I don't think I will need to explain that. It's very clear.
这里是另外的寄送，就是文书开智记，这是不是主要的寄送，然后这里的意思也非常的简明易了，我就不在这里展开多说。
And then the next slide. So it says, grant me, I pray, the intelligence, the brilliance to understand the scriptures, both the word and the it's supposed to be treatise. So yeah, a T is missing, but anyway, here it is saying that what he's asking for, he's making a request here as well, the author or whoever wrote this, whoever is reciting this prayer, that for Manjushri to give them the blessing of intelligence, to make them intelligent. And the reason why they want to be, whoever's praying wishes to be intelligent is in order to understand the meaning of the scriptures, whether it be the actual words or the treatise in general.
下一页的这两句寄送是祈请文殊菩萨加持祈祷者能够拥有智慧这里的智慧是祈请文殊菩萨能够让我们彻底的了解以及理解经论以及经论里的含义。
And so this is the prayer, and usually for like monks and nuns studying in Buddhist monasteries and colleges or universities, almost everyone, Tibetan Buddhists so far, recite this prayer. It's a very famous prayer, and almost everyone that is interested in understanding the Buddha's teachings and who wishes to study them relies on this prayer daily. Mostly you will find monks and nuns reciting this prayer in the very early morning once they have woken up.
通常这个寄送是所有的不仅仅是藏人，然后所有的僧众都会念诵，都会祈请，对他们来说非常的重要。我们经常能在寺院，能够在其他的学院里面看到僧众念诵祈请这个寄送文，因为这个寄送文非常的重要。
And I think it is also very beneficial for us because we are going to be studying the Buddha's teachings, and for that we need a bit of intelligence, otherwise it will be difficult to understand. So in order to attain the intelligence that we need, it is good to rely on the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And so therefore we pray to him through this prayer, which holds many blessings.
我认为这个寄送对我们来说也非常的重要，因为接下来我们就会学习论点，然后我们也需要智慧来学习，所以我们要依靠文殊菩萨加持我们，给予我们智慧，也要祈请文殊菩萨，也就是智慧的象征。
So now I will give all transmission, a very short one, and then after that we will recite it together once before we start the actual teaching.
我现在会给一个非常简短的这个寄送的口传，接下来我们会一起念诵，然后就会开始正式的讲接下来正式的论点。
Lamada gombo jizun jambe angla gube cha ca lo kange lo zhe jinye jinja nida namda rapsa be chinye dengun chishin si jira nige tukara le bamzin. Kanda sibe zonrala mare mentum dunga gisre be jozo gunla puje da ze yala chuje yangden song. 主的了切着牛毛尼龙那个加着着在进把这没事来动啊牛过今年就在了这南的呢大进社区他是原的人做个些图过知道就当去年跟着到了没事准备养了的真的开个开了不是那个到了的么没把那啥呢高当定居上了到把一了这宝贝那我早都送So now we will recite it together.
我们现在开始一起念诵。
Lama dang gombo jizun jambe yang la gube cha ca lo kange lo je timnie jintala ni dara namda rapsa ve Qinye Dengün Qixin Siji Nigi Tukara Lebam Zin Kanda Sibe Zera Mari Mentumo Dungal Gisrebe Zhozo Gunla Puji Darze Yela Chuju Yangde Song主达拉切着年毛尼龙来给加着周在经，马人们是东阿拉牛过去年就在那这南，对呢大金杀猪他是原的绿做加些土过。就照就当就你跟着到了没事，江边养老的真的开着为是来给到了的么明白รับ啥呢？噶当定居上路到巴音，了这宝贝难忘早都说。Okay, and now we will start the actual teaching of clarifying the sage's intent.
好，我们现在开始正式的传讲，也就是讲述牟尼密意显明论。
So, it is called clarifying the sage's intent because the sage here refers to Shakyamuni Buddha.
这个题目是说，解释就是把释迦牟尼佛的密意清楚的解释出来，然后这里的牟尼就是指的是释迦牟尼。
And here it says the sage's intent, so basically it means the Buddha's intent. And here what intent means is it is the intent of the Buddha's sutras, the meaning of the Buddha's sutras. So the Buddha taught many sutras, and they all have a profound meaning. And so it is the meaning which Sakya who is the author, will clarify here.
然后这里的密意是指佛的密意，佛传讲过很多很多的经论，每一部经论都有非常深深的意义，所以这里的阐明密意就是阐明佛陀的密意，也就是说萨迦班智达把佛陀的密意显明的阐论出来。
So maybe it is good to know about Sakya a little bit because he is the author of this text.
我们现在这里简单的介绍一下萨迦班智达。
So I will not focus too much about him here because of the time, but basically, at least we need a rough understanding about him. So Sakya was first born into the Kun clan or the Kun family of Tibet.
我们这里的侧重点不会花很多时间讲萨迦班智达，但是非常重要的是我们要大概了解一下，萨迦班智达是出生于昆氏家族。
And he was prophesied earlier, Yeah, he was prophesied many years earlier, before he was born, by the great Indian master Atisha, who is also considered one of the founders of the Gadam tradition.
萨迦班智达之前有过非常多的转世，比如说最之前也就是噶当派的创始人，sorry, what's the name again?
Atisha.
阿蒂霞尊者，不好意思。
And so Atisha prophesied earlier that there was going to be several emanations of Manjushri, basically several emanations of Manjushri, also an emanation of Avalokiteshvara, and also an emanation of Vajrapani that will be born in the land of Sakya. And so among the several emanations of Manjushri that Atisha prophesied that would appear in the future, Sakya Pandita is one of them.
先解释一下我之前说的，不是萨迦班智达之前很多转世，而是说阿蒂霞尊者之前有过非常多的预言，之后会有许多文殊菩萨的化身，萨迦班智达就是在萨迦派中的其中一位。
And so he was not only was he an emanation of Manjushri, but he is also considered as one of the most important and most respected among all of the Sakya masters.
萨迦班智达不只是文殊菩萨的化身，而且他也是最重要以及最被受为顶礼赞叹的一位班智达。
So it so happened that lived. It also happened to be that the same time that the last abbot of Nalanda University in India also happened to be living at that same time, and his name was Shakya Shri.
当时也有最后一位清教师住在纳兰陀寺，然后他的名字是刚才法丸子说的那个名字。
And it was around that time that Nalanda University was destroyed by, how to say, the invading forces, non-Buddhist invading forces. And so therefore, the abbot and many monks died at that time, and many fled for their lives. And it so happened that the last abbot of Nalanda University, he escaped, and he made his way to Tibet.
当时纳兰陀大学被外道的侵入者摧毁了，也就是很多的清教师都逃走，然后正好当时最后一位清教师就进入了藏地。
And he met Sakya Pandita there, and Sakya Pandita received his own monk ordination from this Nalanda abbot.
当时就遇到了萨迦班智达，然后萨迦班智达就从那一位清教师当中从他那里得到了教言。
And so this Nalanda abbot was very impressed by Sakya Pandita's knowledge of not just Sanskrit, but also any kind of field of knowledge, whether it be worldly or the spiritual, because Sakya Pandita was extremely learned in not just Buddhism, but also on whether it was on making statues, drawing, making paintings, whether it was medicine, language, and any kind of knowledge, everything, even martial arts. Sakya Pandita knew all of that. So the Nalanda abbot was very, very impressed by him, and he conferred the Pandita title on Sakya Pandita. So therefore, Sakya Pandita is believed to be the first Tibetan to receive the Pandita title from Indian Buddhism and from Nalanda itself.
更正一下，我之前说的，遇到萨迦班智达之后，从清教师那里得到的不是教言，是戒律。然后清教师遇到了萨迦班智达之后，就被萨迦班智达的智慧所感到震惊。不仅仅是对佛教的理解，还有对其他的 其他的学问，比如说做雕像啊，或者是画唐卡等等的一切，都被班智达的智慧所感到震惊。所以就是后来就给予了班智达的这个名称给萨迦班智达。萨迦班智达也是藏地第一位被印度在大兰陀斯清教师关于班智达名称的嗯修行人。
And so he was also, his fame spread very far and wide, and due to that also he had many challenges, and especially there's there was a very uh, there was a very well learned Indian scholar um, who was a non-Buddhist who came to challenge him all the way to the border of Tibet and India. And Sakya Pandita also was able to successfully defeat the Indian master, because they made a promise before debating that whoever loses, they would convert to the winner's religion. But however, Sakya Pandita did not lose, and because he won the debate with that Indian Pandita, all of the Indian master and his followers took ordination from Sakya Pandita.
因为萨迦班智达的智慧，他的名声广传，然后同时也就遇到了非常多的困难，比如说当时在印度的很多的学者以及外道都前来向萨迦班智达挑战。他们当时辩论的一个条件就是，如果输了的话，就要转向相信另外一个人的教派或者是他们的外道。但是萨迦班智达面对他们就从来没有在辩论方面输给过他们。
And so he was also invited to Mongolia, because it was around that time that Mongolia was at the peak of its, its glory, I guess you could say. It had taken over many countries in Asia, many parts of Europe, and also just you could say about maybe 60 or 70% of Asia. At that time, Mongolia had taken over. So Mongolia had also threatened to forcefully and violently take over Tibet, unless Sakya Pandita accepted the invitation of the Prince of Mongolia to visit Mongolia.
当时萨迦班智达的名声还传到了蒙古，当时蒙古是在属于非常鼎盛的时期，当时占了亚洲以及欧洲的很多地方，大概占据了亚洲的70%。当时蒙古人也向班智达发出了威胁，以及对藏地发出了威胁，除非萨迦班智达接受蒙古王子的邀请前往蒙古，不然的话就会要挟要占领藏地。
And so once he arrived in Mongolia, he was very successful in spreading Tibetan Buddhism there. So that is how Tibetan Buddhism first spread to Mongolia. It was mainly thanks to him and also his nephew, Chogyal Papa.
佛教传到了那个地方，其中有一位，也就是他的侄子，也就是八思巴尊者。
And so anyway, that is a rough introduction to Sakya Pandita. He is believed to be the only Tibetan that also had all of the attributes of a Buddha, of a fully enlightened Buddha that we mentioned earlier when speaking of Manjushri's body attributes, such as the tuft of white hair and all of those other qualities. He is believed to be the only Tibetan that had such qualities.
萨迦班智达也被认为是在藏地作为藏人来说，唯一一个拥有佛陀的就像我们之前说的文殊菩萨的百亿十二相好的庄严，比如说之前说的眉间之间的白毫等等。
So he is considered as the sixth Sakya patriarch or Sakya throne holder.
所以他也被认为是萨迦的第六祖。
And so this is his work. It's a very wonderful work because it encompasses the whole essence of the Mahayana path from beginning till end. So if one practices and learns about this work, clarifying the sage's intent, one will know how to attain enlightenment, basically. So that is very useful for all of us.
这个今天讲的是萨迦班智达的著作是一部非常重要的论点，因为它包含了所有的精髓，也就是从最一开始的修行到最后证悟佛果之间一切所有修行的要点和精髓。也就是说，这一部论点可以让我们知道如何证悟佛的果位。
So to speak of it, the title of the text in Sanskrit is Munimat Prakash Nama Shastra, and in Tibetan it is Tubegongba Rabdu Salvas. And so in English it is clarifying the sage's intent.
所以这一个论点有它的梵文和藏文的名字，也就是刚才梵文最后我们说的。然后它英语的翻译，翻成中文的话就是牟尼利益显明论。
So when speaking of this, there are several chapters, and I'll highlight them later on as we move on with the classes. But the first chapter is about spiritual potential.
然后这个论点有不同的章节，我之后都会把它一一的列举出来。然后第一个章节就是说种性的建立。
So I'll just go to the beginning of the text. It says, reverent homage to the Guru and Manjushri. So Sakyapelita is first praying to his, just like similar to that of how the author prayed to Manjushri earlier in his composition or that prayer. Similar for this, clarifying the sage's intent for Sakyapelita for himself to accumulate good deeds as well as to get rid of the obstacles in composing this textbook. He first pays homage to his guru, who is in this case the fifth Sakya Tujin, and also to his own deity, Manjushri.
我们先从最开始的顶礼文来说起。这里是萨迦班智达向文殊菩萨的顶礼，就好像我们之前讲文殊礼赞的时候一样有顶礼，就是为了积攒福报，遣出委员。然后这里也向萨迦班智达的上师，也就是五祖坚称仁波切巴坚赞顶礼，也就是他的上师。
And so it says, the completely awakened Buddha, the source of benefit and lasting happiness, arose from a conqueror's son. So what this means is that the fully enlightened Buddha, who is in this case you can understand as Shakyamuni Buddha, he is the very source of benefit and lasting happiness for all sentient beings. The reason why is because it is due to his teachings that sentient beings know what is right and what is wrong to do, and once they get that understanding, they will do what is right and avoid what is wrong, and due to that they will attain happiness. And that is not just any kind of happiness, but it is going to be everlasting happiness that they attain.
然后这里也是向全然正悟的殊胜的佛陀作为顶礼，而释迦牟尼佛是我们所有众生的快乐的源泉。从释迦牟尼佛的智慧当中，我们可以知道什么该做，什么不该做。然后通过知道了这一切之后，就能够得到快乐，而且这个快乐不只是短暂的快乐，而是永恒的快乐。
And so now it's saying the completely awakened Buddha, the source of benefit and lasting happiness, arose from a conqueror's son. So what this is saying is that the fully enlightened Buddha himself, or whoever it is, he or she, in this case it is mainly Shakyamuni Buddha. So Shakyamuni Buddha himself where did he come from? There's this question that pops up. So if Shakyamuni Buddha is this great as you speak of, then how did he come to be? And so it says that the Buddha himself arose from a conqueror's son. And a conqueror's son means a bodhisattva, meaning that the Buddha was once a bodhisattva before he attained enlightenment.
那这里说的佛陀就是如此殊胜的佛陀，就是指一般是指释迦牟尼佛。这里就有个问题，就是说佛陀从哪里来？也就是说摄证了圆满果位的佛陀，他也是从菩萨而来，就是说摄证了佛陀果位的佛陀之前也是一位菩萨。
And then the question now arises, what arises is that, so if the Buddha was once a bodhisattva, if he came from a bodhisattva, meaning if he was once a bodhisattva, where was the bodhisattva born from? How did the bodhisattva come to be? And so to answer that question, it says the conqueror's son arose from the thought of awakening, which is bodhicitta, or you could also say the mind of enlightenment. So the Buddha came from the bodhisattva, was born from the bodhisattva. And where did the bodhisattva was born from is from the mind of enlightenment, which is bodhicitta. Mind of enlightenment is the wish to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings.
那如果说佛陀之前是菩萨的话，那这里另外一个问题就是菩萨从哪里而生？那菩萨的话就是从一颗正悟的心而生，也就是菩提心，也就是我们愿一切众生都能够证悟佛的果位的一个愿望的一个的心而产生。
And it says, which is in nature, emptiness, and compassion. So the nature of emptiness that is referred to here is, it is the nature of emptiness and compassion. It is the union of emptiness and compassion.
那这个心又是从哪里来？这个心的本性是是空性和慈悲和智慧，也就是说是空性和慈悲的一个组合。
So it says, therefore, to benefit living beings, I pay homage to the thought of awakening and briefly explain here the stages of embarking upon the excellent path of the conqueror's sons. So it says here, to benefit living beings, because he's going to benefit, Sakya Pandita is planning to benefit living beings to writing this work. So to benefit living beings to writing this work, he pays homage, he first of all pays homage to the thought of awakening, because he's holding the thought of awakening, the mind of enlightenment in great importance here, because the Buddha was born from a bodhisattva, and the bodhisattva was born from the mind of enlightenment. And if there's no mind of enlightenment, there is no bodhisattva. And if there's no bodhisattva, there is no Buddha. And if there's no Buddha, then there is no source of benefit and everlasting happiness for sentient beings. So therefore, the mind of enlightenment is the very, very cause of such greatness. So therefore, he is, Sakya Pandita is praising and offering his homage or respect to the thought of enlightenment first.
这里萨迦班智达为了度化一切众生，向正悟的心而顶礼。因为萨迦班智达想要度化一切众生，所以他在此顶礼正悟的心。就好像我们刚才说的，如果没有正悟的心的话，也就没有菩萨；如果没有菩萨的话，也就没有佛陀；如果没有佛陀的话，也就没有我们之前说的永恒的快乐的源泉。所以这里萨迦班智达向正悟的心顶礼。这里非常的重视正悟的心。
So we can understand that for full enlightenment to be attained, there are three main causes. It is compassion and emptiness and mind of enlightenment. So the meditation of compassion and the meditation of emptiness and the meditation of the mind of enlightenment. And among these three, here, Sakya Pandita has chosen to pay homage to the mind of enlightenment.
要想得到证悟的心的话，有3点非常的重要，一个是慈悲，一个是空性，还有一个就是也就是一个证悟，也就是彻底的证悟。然后这里的三加班智达顶礼的是彻底的证悟。
So I think we'll leave it here. Today's explanation was mostly upon the praise to Manjushri. So that is what we need to most importantly remember today. And it is good if one can one can recite this daily as much as one can, even if it's just once. There's immense benefit in reciting the Manjushri's prayer. It will help to clear away the obscurations for us to understand the Dharma, and it will also help us to sort of make our mind more clear, so we'll be able to understand and comprehend the profound meaning of Dharma. Because Dharma, the Buddha's Dharma, is actually, if you study it in detail, it is very complicated. It can be very complicated and profound, and so therefore we do need intelligence, a good intelligence and wisdom. And in order to attain that, it is good to practice or to recite the prayer as much as one can.
那我们今天就大概说到这里今天说的重点都是围绕着顶礼文殊菩萨。之前讲的文殊礼赞是一个非常好的寄颂，如果能够每天念诵的话，就非常的殊胜，有无尽的功德。如果通过念诵的话，就可以帮助我们消除很多的违缘，然后特别是能够帮助我们理解法义，也能够帮我们清净我们的思路，让我们的思路变得非常的清楚。因为佛教是非常的深深以及复杂，如果我们要细入学习的话，所以说我们如果能够经常顶礼礼赞文殊菩萨，能够念文殊菩萨礼赞文的话，是非常的殊胜的。
And so if anybody would like to ask any questions, please feel free to.
现在如果有人想问任何问题的话，请踊跃发言。
如果有人要问问题的话，直接自己开麦就好了哈。
仁波切可以再念一遍礼赞文吗？
So there's a question or request to please give the transmission of the praiser to the Lord of Manjushri again.
Oh, okay. Lama da gombo jizen jambe yang la gube cha tsa lo kange le je jimye jinjala ni dara namda rabsa be chinye dengkun chishin si chire ni ge togara le bamze kanda sibe zerara mari mentum dunga gisre be zozo gunla puje darze yang la chuje yang den zudara chejo nyomo ni lo lege jajo joze jing Mari misile dunga nyugu chinye jeze la jena. Dene daji saji tasu yenden luzo gyase tugu. Chuja chudan chunyi genje dalu mise jambe yang la. Zenden kege keraba vesere dalu demo memba rapsane. Gadan denju shunlu dobayi. Loje bobe nangwa zadu so. Okay.
顶礼仁波切。仁波切可以再口传一下文殊菩萨心咒吗？可以配合祈祷文一起念诵。
There's a request for an oral transmission of the short sutra of Lord Manjushri, Orna Bhatanati.
The mantra, you mean, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there's not really a sutra, so I'll just say it several times and you can, or you all can repeat after me. Om Arabazanadi.
Om Arabazanadi.
Om Arabazanadi.
Om Arabazanadi.
Om Arabazanadi.
Om Arabazanadi.
So that is the mantra of Manjushri. You can also recite that in the early mornings along with the Manjushri prayer. The mantra is not very difficult to recite, so you can recite it as much as you can, even if you cannot recite the prayer that much.
刚才法王子说这个星咒不是很难念诵，如果不能念诵文殊礼赞的话，可以多念诵这个星咒。There's a question about how we can pray to Lord Manjushri through the praiser of Lord Manjushri that we have been taught about today.
Well, the way to pray about it, and the way to pray to Manjushri is just, it's good, it's best if you can, while you're praying, while you're reciting the prayer, you think of the meaning of the prayer, as I mentioned. And it's all the Chinese translation is also available there in the text, I'm pretty sure. So while you're reciting each word, it's good if you can think about the meaning as well. If you cannot do that, then at least try to, you can just recite the prayer and think of Manjushri. Just think of Manjushri maybe on top of your head, sitting on top of your head on a lotus seat, or you could think of Manjushri in the sky in front of you, sitting on clouds, and then pray to him and request him to grant upon you the intelligence and the blessings that you need.
我们在念诵礼赞文的时候，可以思考这个礼赞文，就是我们刚才的，就是这些中文翻译里面每一句话的意义。我们也可以观想文殊菩萨在我们的头顶，坐在一个莲花座上，边念诵边祈请，如此观想文殊菩萨。或者我们也可以观想文殊菩萨给予我们加持以及给予我们智慧。There's also a request for an oral transmission. I'm just going to find the name quickly. There's a request of oral transmission of Maha Siddhasipa Patra.
Well, I don't think I might be allowed to give that one because I myself have not received the oral transmission, I believe.
房子说他可能没办法给这个传承，因为他可能自己也没有这个大白伞盖佛母的星座的传承。Let me see the next question.
仁波切您好，能不能给传一个催破金刚咒的传承？感恩。
不好意思，你说的是催破金刚咒。
催破金刚咒的传承，感恩您。
So there is a request of oral transmission for Vajravidarana.
Vajravidarana. Wonder what that is. But in all journal, cake the king you forget on Kasung.
오늘 이제 도저 남정도 연결해라.
도저 남정네. 도저 남정네. I don't seem to have that with me at the moment, the prayer. So maybe in a future, I can give that to you.
王子说他现在没有这个他以后有机会的话会给传承。 Please amend the request of a oral transmission.
Okay, this time, if anyone have more questions, please come after 2 weeks. We have another class after 2 weeks. 各位师兄道友好，今天的话就是到这边结束。当然我们还有回向文，然后如果大家还有问题的话，2周以后可以上来直接问法王子。And right now, Matthew have something to say to Rinpoche. Matthew, 你可以上来跟法王子讲东西了。
My name is Matthew, and my Tibetan Buddhist name is Tachi Chozang. I'm very honored to be speaking here today representing the Vancouver Buddhist Studying Group to thank Your Eminence to give us this teaching. We are all now living in a dark age where Buddhism is dwindling, and yet Your Eminence has saved us, encouraging us to start or continue the path of Dharmahood, ultimately gaining enlightenment. We are forever grateful for all that you have given us, the teachings, guides, practices, and countless others. So as a group, we thank you we thank Your Eminence for agreeing to provide this excellent Dharma study program to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And so I thought of maybe explaining the significance of doing the dedication prayers, but I don't think we have time today. So maybe maybe 2 weeks later, then I will explain the significance of the meaning of why it's important to recite the dedication prayers.
今天我们因为时间的关系，没有办法详说回向的功德以及回向的意义。下一次开示的时候会说介绍回向的功德以及回向的意义。
So now to conclude today's session, we will recite there's His Holiness the 41st Psychotujin's Long Life Prayer. So we will recite that and then conclude it with the dedication prayers.
再先来念诵第41任大家法王的祈请文，然后我们就回。
Balden Zawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiburo Beme Den Shuane Kajin Chimbe Gune Jeson Kuson Togi Ngejo Zadu Son Chime Mishe Sonwe Kurokan Chime Tsejen Lamo 坚定嘛，前面在老王为错那么给，前面在因为主早多说，人什么白面图给，那么呢，看在女腿上说，也没了钱，撒点龙多白茶。 Gezene dulu jalin shege do da den so nga wan ju zhu la ri kun ge don zhou gun ga ze te chen do nga lam pen de ba do ba la we chen le chen san pe wang ye gya bu 小点所南大清点斯勒给撒些拉特萨玛关别人前杜罗马在切子中当节点帮人们给叫出的网络波罗但说所叫我你把节子 kwa ma nye gya den chi du nye ge se ma shi kya ve lam san sa mo lo xie na ya wa chi xian den ze sha den so pe zo ya se du ge zha xie ba ba den sa ge chu se ba la ne ne cho zam ne ze be gen do che che xian sang su mo do lo je da de so lu me la ma cho su mo to je dang ye da ma de so ya zi to do dang che nie sa mo yu ro me den be tu che da so be de den zhong gyu ro ji se nama di ye tam che se pa nye to ne nye be da na pam che ne ke ga na che ba lo chu pa ye se be co ne zhou wa la shu chang pa la pa wu xie da la ken pa dang gun du sang bu te yang te xian de te da gun gi je su da lu jing ge wan de da tam je ram du mo tu su mo she be gya wa tama je ge ngo wa kang la cho do nga ba de da ge we za wa de ge kyang sang bo chu chi ram do ngo wa ra ge chan choi gyo we gyo bai choi gyo bai ke zhu gya zi yong su kang we ne kang ri chu dire ten ba sa zi ba sa kya ba ye ten ba ye gyu ji kang chen pe ge de wa do je ten ba de sa ge chu se ba gyu ji zhe be dong ge gun che me ba dang gun gyang chen le nama ka nyam ba la shu. Okay, thank you everyone, and I'll see you 2 weeks later.